Tonight, Indiana's legislature makes more moves to lure the bears across state lines. We tour the likeliest Hoosier state site. Special counsel Jack Smith tells Congress he believed he had evidence to convict Donald Trump for January 6th beyond a reasonable doubt. Bally's Casino playing an empty hand. Its new building is behind schedule, and its lease in a temporary downtown site runs out soon. So where will the company put all its chips?
Welcome, everyone, to the Chicago Report. I'm Paris Schutz in our climate-controlled studio. I hope you, as well, are indoors somewhere right now because, as you know, it's a little dangerous to be outside. Temperatures are headed below zero overnight with wind chills Friday morning that could reach near 40 below. That's right, 40 below. Metro will be operating a pared-back schedule as trains have to go slower on the tracks during the extreme chill, and Chicago Public Schools have canceled all classes and programs tomorrow. The city's Office of Emergency Management and Communications will keep some warming centers open overnight. And you can get a list of locations and all the area's school closures on our website, fox32chicago.com. So let's warm you up with some of the top stories of the day. Illinois Senior Senator Dick Durbin debriefed the public today on a trip he and a delegation of other Democratic senators took to Denmark. This as President Trump offers mixed messages on what a purported agreement with NATO on the fate of Greenland looks like. Durbin offered his statements at the Chicago Council on Global Affairs, says his colleagues wanted to send a different message to European leaders than the one that has been coming out of the White House.
Fellow Danish and Greenlandic legislators implored us to explain what was going on there. There was a sense of anger as well as pain to think that the United States might in fact invade Greenland or some other entity in an effort for President Trump to take control of that country. We assured them that the overwhelming majority of Americans oppose the Trump strategy on Greenland.
Now, a local congressional candidate is coming clean today about domestic abuse charges in his past. Illinois State Senator Willie Preston is running for Congress in the South Side 2nd District amid a bunch of candidates. Our own Dane Placco has the exclusive details about Preston's past and how he explains it now.
I'm Willie Preston, and I was born and raised on the south side of Chicago.
Illinois State Senator Willie Preston is one of 11 Democrats running to fill Robin Kelly's open congressional seat. But he says he's not running away from his past.
I made one of the biggest mistakes of my life. It happened, it was an isolated incident. It happened one time. I slapped my wife.
Preston talked to us with his wife at his side, then his girlfriend when she called the police on him in 2010.
My mom was a survivor of domestic abuse. I would never allow that to happen to me, you know? And so after—
Which is why you called the police.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
According to a report obtained by Fox Chicago, police responding to a disturbance at the North Riverside Mall found Preston, Bailey, and their 3 young children exiting the mall. Bailey was crying, the officer writing that Preston accused Bailey of being unfaithful and slapped her on the right side of her face with his open left hand. Bailey stated while she was walking, Preston reached out and began to choke her on the back of her neck from behind. Bailey entered Sears to try to remain safe, where Preston entered the doors and slapped her a second time with his right open hand on the left side of her face. Preston was charged with domestic battery, telling police, "I know I put my hands on her, now I gotta pay."
I knew at the moment I did it that I was wrong. And I took accountability immediately behind it.
But that's something that was 16 years ago. Since then, we have come so far with therapy and with counsel and with additional guidance.
I'm grateful for my wife sticking with me. You know, if my wife hadn't stuck with me, I don't know where my life would be right now.
Since that time, the couple have married and had 3 more children. But Preston says he understands raising his political profile also invites scrutiny of his past, which he recently revealed at a meeting of domestic abuse survivors.
I did something I'm not proud of. I slapped my wife. I went to jail. The next day she came and bonded me out. For far too often, men hide behind silence, behind shame. And I just can't stand here in good consciousness and not admit what I have been a part of.
Is something like this potentially disqualifying for a political candidate?
Well, look, if it's disqualifying to some people, I respect that. For me, it's not. I think this election we're not just in a Me Too era, we're in an affordability era. We're in an era where people want authentic politicians.
But this recent campaign commercial featuring an endorsement from Cook County Clerk Monica Gordon may hit the wrong way, given Preston's past.
Hi, I'm Cook County Clerk Monica Gordon. I am proud to be in the ring with Preston for Congress.
To lower property taxes. Regrets? Oh no. It's the best commercial in this political cycle. And again, it encompasses everything that this campaign stands for. It was authentic because I am the fighter in this congressional campaign.
A fight his wife says she fully supports.
This is something that I am doing willingly because I believe in him and I know that he's the right man for the job.
This is my partner, and that one moment where I did something that I regretted immediately is not who I am.
Preston has received endorsements from a number of Chicago area political leaders and unions, but it's unclear whether they were aware of the domestic violence charge. Preston says he intends to stay in the race. Dane Placco, Fox Chicago News.
Our thanks to Dane for that exclusive report. Former special counsel Jack Smith says Donald Trump was on his way to being charged with several felonies before allegedly conspiring to overturn the 2020 election and for allegedly obstructing justice by hiding government records at his Mar-a-Lago estate. Smith tussled with Republicans on the House Oversight Committee today during a hearing, and he received full-throated support from Democrats on that committee, and he said he believes he would have won his case.
As I testify before the committee today, I want to be clear. I stand by my decisions as special counsel, including the decision to bring charges against President Trump. Our investigation developed proof beyond a reasonable doubt that President Trump engaged in criminal activity. If asked whether to prosecute a former president based on the same facts today, I would do so regardless of whether that president was a Democrat or a Republican. No one should be above the law in this country, and the law required that he be held to account, so that is what I did.
And we know that Smith dropped the case subsequently after President Trump won election in 2024, as the Supreme Court has ruled that sitting presidents cannot be charged. And now we're joined by Harold Krent of IIT Kent College of Law. Harold Krent, good to see you again. Did Jack Smith make a convincing case today that he was on solid grounds to prosecute President Trump for crimes related to the 2020 election and the Mar-a-Lago documents?
No, I think he did. I mean, he stood his ground and he tried to fend off accusations that he was engaged in a political witch hunt. And he made a convincing case that his investigation was independent. It was based upon the record. The record stands, and he thinks it's strong enough, even today, to pursue an investigation if, of course, President Trump is not in the White House currently. Obviously, this comes within a swirl of investigations of President Trump's opponents, such as head of the FBI, Comey, such as the Attorney General of New York. And Jack Smith may be a target down the line, but he certainly stood his ground today.
And yes, of course, Republicans claiming that Jack Smith had politicized the Justice Department, that it was a political witch hunt. I think one could objectively say the DOJ has been politicized to a certain extent under Trump right now with those prosecutions you mentioned. But did we learn anything new, or did you learn anything new from listening to parts of this testimony?
I didn't really learn anything new, and I think people probably in the United States have made up their minds about, particularly January 6th, about whether it was politicized or not. And I think that he stood up well to the Republicans, and indeed some of the Republicans who are chastising him now were aghast at what happened when they were in the chamber on January 6th. Time changes perspectives, and in terms of people's allegiances and hearing what they want to hear. But I think Jack Smith did himself well, and he proved that the respect for the rule of law is critical, no matter whether it's Republican or Democratic regime. And he said he's committed to it, and he would, if he's ever served the public again, he'd be happy to serve, whether it's a Republican or a Democrat.
Time changes minds, and so does political polling and the desire for self-preservation in the job. Republicans, you mentioned, they did try to land some different shots on Jack Smith. For instance, why didn't he indict co-conspirators if there were co-conspirators involved? Why did he subpoena phone records? Did some of these strategies have some teeth to them?
I think that the phone records has been a sore point. Jack Smith did subpoena records of some members of Congress to determine who had been talking to President Trump. And on the one hand, that's unseemly because he's looking at the phone records of members of Congress. But as he stated, that is a very typical thing to do in a criminal investigation, is to see not the contents of the phone calls, but to see who's been in contact with who, so you can sort of test the level of the conspiracy. So I think that's the one sort of spot that may strike some people in the United States as being overbroad, that he should have shown more respect to members of Congress and not looked at the records of who they call or who they received a call from. But I don't think overall, I don't think that the Republicans were very successful at trying to prove or show that he engaged in anything other than an ordinary, careful, focused, in private, not private, but independent investigation of the former president.
And we know the former and current president wants some of his perceived enemies prosecuted. He's urged the Attorney General Pam Bondi to do so. He wants Jack Smith prosecuted, perhaps some of his cohorts as well. Do you see any avenues where the Justice Department might investigate the way Smith went about this investigation?
I don't see it now. I don't think there's any kind of grounds for an investigation. Indeed, we know that the indictments against James and Comey were thrown out for a variety of reasons. And I think that there's even less grounds to go after Jack Smith. That doesn't mean they won't try. They'll try to comb through records and try to figure out whether there's any kind of missteps in connection with the investigation or outside the investigation, because that hasn't stopped the politicized DOJ before. But nothing today reveals any kind of open areas for investigation by the DOJ. So I think Jack Smith came across cleanly, with respect, and if we see an investigation in the future, he'll probably beat it back.
All right, to Harold Krent of IIT Kent College of Law, thanks as always for your legal expertise.
All right, have a good night.
All right, you as well, and stay warm. And when we come back, Indiana is warming up on its pitch to lure the Bears across state lines. We go inside the front runner to land the stadium in Northwest Indiana, if it indeed doesn't go to Arlington Heights, right after this. Welcome back. Indiana's legislature is advancing the ball again in its offensive against Illinois to poach the Bears. Should we call it an interception? I don't know. Today, that state Senate passed a bill out of committee that would set up the Northwest Indiana Stadium Commission, which would build and finance a new dome stadium for the team in the northwest part of the state. Sources close to the Bears say they are honing in on an area within walking distance of the Chicago city limits, Wolf Lake in Hammond. This afternoon, we toured the 300-acre site with Hammond Mayor Tom McDermott, and I asked him why Hammond is the front runner.
First off, for the Bears as a business, it gives them all the advantages of being an Indiana business, you know, lower liability rates for your employees. I mean, obviously a better business environment in general. We have a surplus as a state, so I imagine our state would be able to offer more than Illinois is willing to offer, because it seems like Illinois is sort of digging in against the Bears, which is shocking to me. I mean, in the Bears fight song, it's the pride of Illinois, and it doesn't seem like they're being treated like the pride of Illinois right now.
Although the amazing thing is, this location is so close to the city border of Chicago, probably closer than Arlington Heights. I mean, the border of Chicago is right there. So, in a sense, do you think this is a better site than Arlington Heights if you're a fan trying to get to the game?
If you're from the south side, it's definitely a better choice. You could ride your bike to Soldier Field from right here. It would take you about 45 minutes on a bike. I do it in the summer regularly.
And I've been told that Wolf Lake is the primary site that the Bears are looking at in Indiana, even though other folks have offered some sites. What is it about Wolf Lake that makes it a good spot for fans to tailgate, to just hang around? Because, you know, the Bears want a full game day experience.
There's hundreds of acres available down here for an organization like the Bears. If I could get the cooperation of Governor Braun, which seems like he's very interested in this, and the Indiana leadership, and if they're willing to offer a fiscal package the Bears are interested in, we have hundreds of acres down here, a stone's throw from Chicago. So if I live in the Loop right now and I have the option of going to Hammond to see the show at Wolf Lake or going to Arlington Heights, I think it's much closer, much more convenient to get here in Northwest Indiana than it is to Arlington Heights. And you get all the advantages business-wise of being in Indiana.
Can you tell me what the talks with the Bears have been? Are there substantive conversations? Is there movement on something here?
I think there is. I can't tell you firsthand because I know that Governor Braun is taking an active interest in this, and that excites me because Governor Braun is the key point man in Indiana on this project, and the fact that he's so interested in bringing the Bears into Indiana is exciting for me. And then, of course, we're the closest city here in Hammond. We're the closest to Chicago, so obviously we're going to be on the short list of locations the Bears would be interested in if they're going to come to Indiana.
What level would the state of Indiana be willing to support the Bears in terms of paying for the acquisition of the land and the building of the stadium?
It's shocking, some of the conversations I'm hearing about. I don't want to get into particulars because I don't want to ruin any progress that's being made, but I think the state of Indiana is being very generous and being very aggressive with the Bears. And it excites me as a Hoosier, and of course as the mayor of Hammond, and a humongous Bears fan. I'm just so excited this is happening.
And I mean, I know that the bill that they're considering right now would create the stadium authority, which would own the building and finance it. Does that mean they might finance the entire construction and just have the Bears pay rent?
I think this is all still being worked out, but I know that if the state of Indiana is going to make this happen, that they're going to run this project. And I'm sure I'll have say locally as the mayor, but let's be honest, there's going to be 10 figures worth of investment made in this property, and they want to make sure that they're going to get their money back. So,
what about the town of Hammond? I mean, you might have residents that say, well, look, if the Bears are coming here, we need to get some tax revenue out of this. Is there going to be an economic benefit to Hammond?
The Bears probably bring along 2,000 permanent jobs along with them, and the prestige of being an NFL city. Chicago's a world-class city that we all love. I love Chicago. I go there as much as I can. But for Hammond, Indiana to be an NFL city that's worth a lot. And I imagine there's going to be a lot of hotels, even though this area will probably be under control of the state of Indiana and the Bears. If this happened, they would be calling the shots in this part of the city, but everything that developed outside of this area would be magnificent for the city of Hammond.
So you could have developers, just a bonanza of folks that want to build restaurants and hotels and and entertainment venues.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's what I'm hoping for.
The Bears' fight song is the pride and joy of Illinois.
That's right.
Are they still the pride and joy of Illinois if they come to Hammond?
They could be. You know, I grew up as a San Francisco 49er fan. I grew up in the Bay Area, and we all call them the San Francisco 49ers, but they play in Santa Clara. Santa Clara is over 45 minutes from San Francisco. So, I mean, the Washington Redskins, they play in Maryland, you know. I mean, and the Giants and the Jets play in New Jersey. So this isn't, I mean, what's going on with the Kansas City Chiefs right now? They moved to Kansas. I mean, this is what's happening. And I think, you know, I think all of us would rather see the Bears stay in Soldier Field, but if that doesn't happen, I want them to come to Hammond. I really do.
What's the time frame here in terms of getting a deal done? Are we talking weeks? Are we talking months?
Weeks.
Weeks, it's that close.
The Indiana General Assembly is in session right now. They're going to be out of session at the end of February. This has to be done by then, or else it's not going to happen for another year.
And I have to say, we've seen site surveyors here. The Northwest Indiana Times took some photos. What are they surveying? What do they need to take a look at on this land?
Well, where we're standing right now, we're standing on a slag mountain. Slag is clean. It's just, it's hard as a rock. And I think that's what they're going to find when they do their boring samples. They're going to find that it's clean land and it's on top of slag. And slag is very strong. So we're not worried about whether slag could support a stadium or hotels. It can.
A lot of folks say that this Indiana business is all just leverage for the Bears to get the deal they want in Arlington Heights. To that you say what?
It could be. You know, and if the Bears spend $10 million in Hammond, preparing Hammond, and then Arlington Heights and Illinois comes around and gives them $1 billion worth of incentives, they spend $10 million in Hammond and they get $1 billion of incentives, that's a good deal for them. But what if it's not? What if they're sick and tired of getting screwed around and they're serious about Indiana? Then I'd be a fool if I wasn't taking that seriously.
And from your knowledge, they're taking it seriously.
I'm taking it seriously. I can tell you that. I don't know where they're coming from. I'm taking it seriously.
What does that mean as the mayor of Hammond? What does taking it seriously mean? What do you do to make this happen?
Whatever they need. Whatever they need. I'll work with the governor. I'll be the governor's point contact. And Governor Braun's a Republican governor, and I'm a Democratic mayor, and we don't hang out very often, but it seems like him and I have become real good friends lately, and I'm fine with that. I want to do whatever I can to see that the Bears choose Hammond, Indiana.
But is there a sense of like Indiana's going to give away the store? A lot of economists look at these stadium projects and say, well, when governments give out incentives, they don't necessarily pay off.
Maybe if you're in downtown Chicago and Chicago's got everything already, which is wonderful, I'd love to have a Ruth's Chris in Hammond, and I think I have a better chance of landing a Ruth's Chris in Hammond if I got the Bear Stadium here, you know? Chicago's got a great Ruth's Chris. Chicago's got a great restaurant scene and a great hotel scene. So maybe in a situation like that, that's true, but I have a feeling if they moved to Hammond, Indiana, it would be a major difference in our economy.
I feel like every mayor of a town this size dreams of a mega project like this, because that's the kind of thing that catalyzes a community.
Absolutely.
So currently on that site, 300 acres, a golf course, driving range. We were standing in the pro shop there and the clubhouse, very nice facility. And then a lot of industry around there, BP, chemical plant, and the mayor said that there could be some deals to move those industries out of there to give the Bears even more space. So just like every Bears game this year, looks like this stadium battle is going to come right down to the wire. And speaking of coming down to the wire, when is that Bally's Casino building going to be built over there on Chicago and Halstead? As you know, they're in the midst of putting up this giant high-rise and casino project, but the problem is it's nowhere near completion, and they're going to run out of time soon for their lease at Medina Temple, their temporary spot. So lawmakers might have to roll the dice on some new legislation. How many gambling cliches can I get in here? Fox Chicago's Brett Bugansky joins us with more, and let's see how many we can fit into this segment. Brett, show your hand for us. What's the status here on this high-rise?
It looks like we don't know because they haven't allowed us inside the whole thing. But when you drive past Halstead and Chicago, it still even looks like with the steel up and with all the foundation of everything, it's not even close to being open by September of this year, which is what they were projected to be open at that time. And it's coming at a time when their temporary license expires this September. And it's all very timely, especially what happened last week.
So they have a temporary license at Medina, and I'll get into what happened last week. But how did they extend their license? It was a state law, wasn't it?
They would have to go and change the state law, which it looks like it's in committee right now in Springfield. Of course, Representative Cam Buckner has put his legislation forward 1 week ago to try to extend that license, which would give them another year potentially to be at the temporary location. But again, this is all changing the timeline of when they were supposed to be out of River North and into the old Chicago Tribune Publishing Center, because there's a lot of construction going on, but there's very little progress. And even Alderman Brian Hopkins was saying yesterday at City Hall that there were some sort of construction delays. What specifically, we don't know. He said they're allegedly doing some work on the inside. But again, if you drive past that facility, it doesn't look like it's going to be ready by September.
I think that we would have to invent some new kind of technology to get a building up that quickly. So this comes as Bally's has put out some figures, some revenue. The city had banked on big bucks here to help it solve its pension crisis and budget deficit, but not exactly materializing.
And that's the thing, is that when you're looking at these numbers here, even just the first year from 2023, they were projecting $12.8 million. That came at 3.1. This last year, they were projecting around $36 million. They didn't even get half of that. That's a bit alarming. Looking at Bally's and the reported financial problems, the billions in debt they have, you have to wonder if money is playing a role into why there have been construction delays, why they were asking for an extension, because Alderman Hopkins had also been skeptical about whether they were going to finish the project. And now looking at these figures, looking at the construction delays, you have to wonder what the real reason behind this was. So I did reach out to Bally's today to find out what the status is with the construction, what's the timeline, what kind of delays they possibly have, and what the status is on their license extension. I'm still waiting to hear back.
So nothing from Bally's. So this building, I mean, how, if the casino is bringing in a fraction of the revenue that it was supposed to, how are they going to fill out an entire giant complex like this and make this world-class casino that they promised?
I think that's going to be a very big gamble to find out, because so far...
There we go, gamble.
The gamble, because everything that's happened, the way the dice is just laid out like that, the way the cards have gone, it has not gone well. It is just... The house has always wins, but not in our favor, not in Chicago here. But just looking at the number, money talks here. And you have to wonder if the people aren't coming to the temporary casino, and this was sort of their test run, the stress test, if you will, to be able to run a casino. Looking at the temporary place, looking at the permanent home, you have to wonder if this is going to be a big bet.
I just wonder if Bally's is going to have to fold at some point.
It might be the possibility. I mean, certainly...
I'm sorry, everybody. Yeah, no, all right, so what are the prospects of passing this legislation? Cam Buckner is the guy, the point person trying to keep the Bears in Chicago. So you think this legislation is going to pass?
He seems to indicate that this would pass, saying that you have to give him some time. What's the alternative here with the whole thing? And I also reached out to Cam Buckner. I just left him a message just minutes ago before we went on the air here, because we have a story also that's going to be on fox32chicago.com looking at kind of the history of how we got here. And it looks like he wants to give him a little bit more time to try to get this underway. But I guess only time is going to tell here if this is a gamble that's going to pay off.
All right, Brett, but of course you had to end it with the gambling reference. Thanks very much. Thank you all for tuning in. Stay warm, everybody. And we are off Friday, but we'll be back Monday night for more Chicago Report. Good night.